A search and rescue mission is underway right as we speak off the coast of Greece, where a Canadian NATO military helicopter crashed off the coast of Greece, as I mentioned, in between Greece and Italy, and it was carrying 6 Canadian soldiers on board. One of those armed forces members is confirmed dead. Sub-Lieutenant Abbigail Cowbrough, there she is right there, a naval officer based in Nova Scotia. She was just 23 years old. We have reached now one of Sub-Lieutenant Cowbrough's former schoolmates. Officer-Cadet Alexandra Paquette was in the Royal Military College Band with Cobra, and we've reached her in Hawkesbury, Ontario. Hi, Alexandra. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
My condolences to you and to everyone in Abigail's family and all her friends. I'm so sorry for your loss. We've been listening to her grandma today and some other people speak about her as she seemed like such an amazing person. What can you tell us about her?
Well, like you said, she was such an amazing person. I met her about 10 years ago when I was at my first cadet camp in Borden. It was a pipes and drums camp. I played the drums. And she just inspired me from that moment. I went back home after the camp and I just pursued on the passion, and I joined RMC and I joined the band also at the same time. And I met her there and we just formed our friendship, and I just started to realize how great of a person and how great of a personality she had. And she was such a bubbly person all the time. And she was so energetic and she was so open-minded, and she was very task-oriented. She really wanted to have everything done very perfectly, like it was supposed to be. But she was also very people-oriented, and I think she made so many friends through her career, through RMC, and I think we'll just remember all those very positive traits that she had.
Her grandma was saying how she was conveying to her how much she loved her job right now, that she loved being able to see the world. What did she tell you about her decision to join the Navy and her experience there so far?
Well, since she'd graduated 2 years ago, we hadn't really kept in touch that way. But I think she was very honored to be serving her country. Like I said, she was in cadets before, so she definitely had the love for her country in her background that way. I think her family was also in the military, so she's definitely the kind of person who had the passion for her country.
You must have been, I can only guess, incredibly shocked to hear the news this morning and to hear her name identified as someone who had died because of this crash. How did you feel when you heard that?
I was devastated, as we all are. But the way that I see life is that we're only lent to each other, and I tried to reflect back on the great memories that I had with her, and I just am so grateful for the time that was lent, the time that she was lent to me, and that's the way that I've tried to cope with it right now.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I've really gleaned from listening to people today talk about her is that she lived a very full and impactful life, even though she was just 23 years old. There are so many specific things and wonderful things that people are conveying about who she was. And I don't even know her, but I feel like that's what I'm left with, that she was only 23, but she left a bigger impression than some people make over an entire, a very long lifetime.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And my heart goes out to all her family, her RMC friends, and her coworkers that might have crossed paths with her. And I really want to salute her and wish her fair winds, because she'll definitely be missed by all of us.
Well, we all certainly salute her and her colleagues who were on that helicopter as well. I really thank you very much for sharing your reflections and your memories of her. I appreciate it, Alexandra.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sub-Lieutenant Abigail Cowbrough, just 23 years old, was living in Nova Scotia. She's originally from Toronto. Here's her grandmother describing how much Abigail loved her job.
Abigail was a very proud Canadian. She grew up wanting to be in the military. Her mom put her and her brothers into cadets very early, and she loved the rigor and the discipline. She did 3 deployments in the Mediterranean, and her passions were food and travel. So being in the military was, join the Navy and see the world. So she, on her 3 deployments, she did a lot of port calls and was able to travel extensively in the Mediterranean region. So we have all kinds of pictures of her taking pictures of the food she's eating in Greece and Croatia and Italy. And the Navy just filled her life. It was everything she ever dreamed of.
This tragedy, of course, follows another one in Nova Scotia this month where 22 people were killed in a mass shooting. Stephen McNeil is the Premier of that province. He joins us from Halifax. Hi, Premier McNeil. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Premier, I want to start off by asking you, of course, so many of these men and women who are missing, and in the case of Abigail, who lost their lives, are based in Nova Scotia. 2 of those who are missing are actually from Nova Scotia. Your reaction when you heard the news of this crash?
Well, first of all, I want to pass on my condolences to Sublieutenant Cobra's family from all Nova Scotians, and indeed send our thoughts and prayers to those families who continue to wait for news on their loved ones. This has been an extraordinary, difficult period of time for our province. The military family is an important part of who we are. All branches are represented here, and of course we're the home of the Navy, and to hear this terrible news today has continued to put a dark cloud over our province. We mourn with those families and the Canadian Armed Forces.
As soon as I heard, I'm thinking of last night, the connections to Nova Scotia, I braced a little bit just having covered what happened last week. I can't imagine you sort of, obviously as Premier over the past week, but also other people in your province. How are people doing there right now? How difficult a time is this?
Well, it's obviously it's very difficult. These are 2 events nationally, really, that have happened in our province that have had impact on our country and beyond. In the midst of dealing with COVID, one of the things that has been forefront in my mind going in just dealing with COVID has been the impact it is having on mental health of the residents of our province, the restrictions that we have around it, and then compound that with these 2 tragedies of national proportions here. So, obviously I'm very concerned about the impact this will have on individual families, but it's also an opportunity for us as a province to stay focused on those that are really suffering here, really grieving, those who've had the major loss, and let that be our focus as a province to continue to try to help them heal as we move forward.
And how is COVID-19 impacting the ability to grieve in both these instances in your province?
Well, the grieving process is one where we come together with the living, the family who have lost someone, a chance to give them a hug, a chance to tell them they matter, we care about them, the human connection that is so much a part of the grieving process obviously can't happen during what's happening with COVID. So we've had to try to find new ways to be able to express our concern, whether it's with the virtual visual or finding ways of keeping our flags at half-mast, wearing our Nova Scotia tartan, and continuing to let those families and communities know that they matter. And today, we're reaching out to the Canadian Armed Forces. Many members of the military retire in Nova Scotia or are serving currently here. They're an important part of who we are as an Atlantic province, as a naval city. So it's critical.
In just about an hour's time, or just over an hour's time, Premier, you and the country's other premiers are slated to talk to the Prime Minister. What is your primary message to the Prime Minister in that conversation tonight?
Well, tonight will be about how provinces are opening up. We need to make sure there's flexibility in those national programs when it comes to wage subsidies that they're providing. if it's those are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at. That a national program may work in central Canada or in Western Canada, but may not have the same impact in Atlantic Canada. We need flexibility in those programs, and continuing to make sure that as we look to reopening, that the provinces really have the main say in that. We're not there yet. We're not ready to continue to open up the economy to the extent that some of our sister provinces have. But we want to do it at our own pace, and we want to do it based on the good science from public health and based on the methodology that we've used around testing. We've done major testing in our province. We believe we know and can isolate the virus, and that will help us make the decisions on when is our time to open up our economy.
Why do you feel, based on what you're seeing, that it isn't time yet?
Well, we continue to see areas of our province where there were pockets where we saw a large number of tests happening. We want to make sure that the work that we had been doing, we did over the last 7 weeks as a province, doesn't go for naught by too quickly opening. We've looked around the world and we've seen where economies opened up too quickly and there's been a second wave. We want to make sure that as we open our economy up, and we'll do it slowly with our partners, there will be a new normal. We need to make sure that the associations representing restaurants understand that, associations representing cosmetologists across our province, other professions understand there's the protocols around that new normal. We need to give them an opportunity to prepare their businesses to function in that environment. And then we continue to make sure that we protect our healthcare system as we open it up in case we do have the spike or another road break in phase 2.
You mentioned in the conversation with the premiers and the Prime Minister, you want to make sure that the provinces have, I guess, the most say when it comes to the speed at which that happens in their own respective province. Have you ever had the impression that that won't be the case?
No, but we need to continue to make sure that that is the case. We have, in my case here, I have sister provinces around me who are opening up at a different pace than I am. We need to make sure, though, that we are given the responsibility to function on what we believe is in the best interest of our province and the citizens in it. And we'll continue to work with the national government to look for flexibility in those programs to understand the unique needs of our province.
What do you mean by flexibility with respect to the wage subsidy program?
Well, the Essential Service Wage Subsidy Program, for example, doesn't hit healthcare workers in our province. The $30,000 cap almost eliminates every healthcare worker in Nova Scotia, all of our frontline people. When we're talking about an essential service legislation for those dealing with COVID, you're leaving out the largest group of people who are actually being impacted by COVID every day. So there's a myth out there that this subsidy would impact healthcare workers. Just simply in our province, it wouldn't, and I would argue in most Canadian provinces, it wouldn't. So if they're looking to do a program that deals directly with those dealing with COVID, it should be more of a bonus program as opposed to a wage subsidy that you would provide for that period of time while people are out working during COVID.
So just so that I'm clear, are you saying that essentially healthcare workers in your province, or so-called essential workers, would not qualify for the top-up the federal government is talking about because they already make $2,500 a month?
I don't think it was unique to our province. It would be across the country.
Yes. Well, we have heard it from other provinces, but for example, Ontario has struck some sort of a deal with the federal government. So I'm just trying to get at what exactly you're looking for from the federal government. Do you want a bonus system instead? Is that what you were saying, or how would it work?
It would certainly make more sense, in my view, to provide a bonus at the end of this process, or the end of the month, as people work through that, as opposed to a wage subsidy. And it should impact those that are actually on the front lines. It should be one that is impacting those that are actually dealing daily with the issue with the virus.
Okay, I'm good.
And the issue of essential service has been, there's a different definition in every Canadian province, so there needs to be a bit of focus put to that.
Gotcha. Thanks for clarifying. I appreciate your time this evening, Premier McNeil.
I just heard you bring in Amazing Grace that Abigail sang.
Yes.
Around COVID. She did an amazing job, and I appreciate you playing it. It's a great tribute to her and her connection to our province and I'm sure it will provide great comfort to her family.
And we will continue to play it throughout the evening, Premier. And in fact, we're speaking to somebody who played in the band with Abigail a bit later in the show. Appreciate your time again this evening, Premier.
Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.